UFC 300 is this weekend, and I'm going to be giving my full card predictions and breakdowns for each of the matchups on this card. We have an incredible event ahead of us this weekend, and I am looking forward to it a lot. Really exciting bouts on this card, and on the last two pay-per-views, I've been doing really good with my predictions, getting only one wrong on each of those cards, with those two picks being Roman Kopylov and Benoit Saint Denis. So I've been having really accurate predictions on these pay-per-views. Make sure to watch the video all the way through to see my predictions for each one of the matchups. But I will have timestamps in the description if you were just interested in my take on one of the fights. But without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with our early prelim opener, Cody Garbrandt versus Deiveson Figueiredo. For our first matchup on the card, we have an excellent fight between two former champions, Cody Garbrandt and Deiveson Figueiredo. And a lot of people have been pretty confident on the side of Deiveson Figueiredo, thinking that he's going to go in there and get an easy KO or just walk to a decision without much adversity. And to be honest, I just don't see that happening. I think that Cody Garbrandt has a decent chance in this fight, and I am going to be picking him to get it done by decision. I think that Deiveson Figueiredo, moving up to the bantamweight division, although he has the speed on most guys, that's not really going to be the case with Cody Garbrandt. And looking at Cody's past few performances, the loss to Kai Kara France is definitely a red flag and is definitely of concern. But I feel like it's kind of similar to TJ Dillashaw going down and getting knocked out very quickly by Henry Cejudo. If that fight plays out 10 times, how many times does Henry Cejudo realistically knock him out in the first 10 seconds? I think that his chin was at a severe disadvantage in that fight just because of the weight cut. And I feel like the same is to be said about Cody going to flyweight as well. I think it definitely hindered his ability to take a shot, which really wasn't already the best to begin with. And he has bounced back with 2 wins since then, but they definitely weren't against good competition. Trevin Jones and Brian Kelleher are definitely not nearly at the same level as a former world champion at flyweight in Deiveson Figueiredo. Deiveson Figueiredo, though, I feel like just doesn't have that speed advantage against Cody Garbrandt like he will against most of the bantamweights he's facing, like against Rob Font. He found a lot of success in that fight, countering Rob Font off of his long, rangy 1-2. He was able to slip off the center line, sometimes shooting the single leg and getting that as well. I don't think that he's going to have the same openings against Cody Garbrandt because a lot of the times that he was catching Rob Font and making Font do the chicken dance, it was in the boxing exchanges in the pocket where he was just that little bit quicker than Font. And even though Font did box the brakes off of Cody Garbrandt, I think in those types of exchanges where the speed is really going to be what matters, I think that Cody Garbrandt is going to have the edge there. And I know that his defense isn't great, but we can't really act like Figgy's is that much better. He does get tagged too. And with the grappling, Figgy probably has the advantage overall, but I don't think he's going to be able to shoot takedowns on Cody nearly as easy as he was against Rob Font. Because like I said, Rob Font was, trying to catch Figgy at the end of really long straight punches, and Figgy was just able to dip right underneath him. Cody's going to be using a little bit more movement, less straight shots, more hooks, trying to find angles. And since he has a lower center of gravity than Rob Font, he's a little more stocky and sturdy. I think that's going to help him a lot with the takedown defense. And I could see a lot of the times when he stuffs a takedown, I think that he could land a combination off the break against Figueiredo. And also, at 36 years of age in the bantamweight division, we can't act like Figueiredo is not getting up there in age as well. Cody Garbrandt seems to be further removed from his prime, but he's still only 32 years of age. Cody hasn't been KO'd in a while, so I have reason to believe that his chin is at least a little bit recovered. And let's not act like Deiveson Figueiredo is just sleeping everybody that he touches clean. It's just not the case. I don't really think that he's going to be able to go in there and starch Cody G super easily. I just don't see that happening. And I think that In the close quarters combinations, Cody's going to be getting the better of him. I think that he'll be able to nullify a lot of the grappling that Figueiredo goes for. And if Figgy even gets him down, he's not really holding people down a lot either. I think that Cody will be able to scramble up to his feet. I think that with Figgy having the extra weight on him as well, it could affect his cardio. Not as big of a factor in a 3-round fight, but still something to take into consideration. And Figgy doesn't throw a ton of low kicks. We saw Cody struggling with that against Kelleher, but Figgy I don't think is going to be threatening them that much. And in the lower weight classes, it's just not nearly as damaging as in the upper weight classes. So for my first pick of UFC 300 early prelim opener, give me Cody Garbrandt by decision. For our next fight on the early prelims, we got Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. Jim Miller making his appearance on UFC 100, 200, and 300. So this is definitely monumental for him. I'm glad he's getting this opportunity. It's really cool to see for Jim A10 Miller. And I also think he's going to be getting the win just like he did on 100 and 200 here in this matchup versus Bobby Green. Even though Bobby Green is a bit of a step up in competition from the guys that Jim Miller has been facing, I think that just stylistically, this really works for him because Bobby Green, you know, everybody knows about his really good boxing, his countering. He does keep his hands really low, but he's quick, has good head movement, and that's the game he plays. You know, he's going to outpoint you, but unless you're Tony Ferguson or Grant Dawson getting fluked, he's not normally finishing guys. And I think that fighting somebody who isn't really a finisher is going to help Miller in this matchup because he does take some punishment when he's moving forward with his constant pressure style, imposing his will. He does take some shots for it. But Jim Miller just always seems to find a way recently. And I think that he is going to be able to use his really good Muay Thai combinations to be able to land low kicks on Bobby Green. Bobby Green's probably going to be slipping out of the way of some shots, landing some really good counters on Jim Miller, but I think that it'll just be a matter of time before Jim Miller starts to find his reads on Bobby Green's movement and starts to land some really good hooks, some good overhands. You know, Jim Miller has seen it all. He's had so many professional fights, and I think he has a really high fight IQ to be able to figure out the puzzle that is Bobby Green. And I think that if all else fails, on the feet, if he's getting pieced up badly there, which I think he won't be. I think he'll be holding his own, landing a lot of good leg kicks as well, like he did in his last fight. I think he'll be able to take it to the ground where he will probably be able to find a submission. Jim Miller has excellent submissions, so many submissions throughout his career, and I could see him wrapping up Bobby Green after maybe clipping him on the feet and finding a submission on the ground, or maybe being able to get to the judges' scorecards and being able to edge out a decision with some control time, maybe taking the back of Bobby Green. And I think that is a very likely outcome for this fight. I think the first round is going to be really close. Maybe Bobby Green edges it out, landing some good counters, showing some visible damage on Jim Miller's face. But I think in the second round and third round, Jim Miller is going to start finding his reads, landing some shots over the low hands of Bobby Green, landing a lot of leg kicks. And I think that he will be able to get the fight to the mat where he'll probably be able to take the back of Bobby Green and ride out the rounds that way. And also we have to take into consideration the fact that Bobby Green suffered a horrible knockout in his last fight. Late stoppage as well, took a lot of unnecessary damage. And we have to think, will that affect his chin in this fight? It wasn't too long ago now, and Jim Miller, he has that outdoorsman power. He has that, you know, game-fed fucking power. He has a clean diet, you know, eating deer and elk that he kills. So you already know he has that fucking dad farmer strength. So I would be a little bit scared on the side of Bobby Green with that into consideration. But Bobby Green, you know, he is a G. He just always, you know, seems to be able to roll with a lot of the shots that come his way. So I don't think that necessarily he will get knocked out in this fight, but I think it's definitely something we have to keep in mind. I think that Jim Miller gets himself a big win on UFC 300. And I just feel like it's bound to happen. It's almost written in the stars for Jim Miller to get a win here at UFC 300 after already being on 100 and 200, winning on those cards. I feel like it's just written in the stars in this one, guys. So give me Jim Miller by decision, 29-28 here in the second fight of UFC 300. And honestly, even though he doesn't need to, I'd like to see Jim Miller hang it up after that, because that would just be a storybook ending in the career of Jim Miller. Our next fight on the card, we got Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. And for a UFC 300 fight, I know we can't have all bangers, but I think the general consensus from most fans is that we're not nearly as excited about this one as a lot of the other fights. So my breakdown's not going to be quite as in-depth in this one as opposed to the other matchups on this card. But for this WMMA matchup on the early prelims of UFC 300, give me Marina Rodriguez to win a decision here. I think she can use her length and her striking to be able to keep Jessica Andrade at bay, who isn't the cleanest on the feet. She's got some pop and she's got some aggression, but she is going to be at a stature disadvantage. She's only 5'1" compared to Marina Rodriguez being 5'6". Marina Rodriguez has decent striking and is more technical, I think, in a WMMA fight, where in this matchup in particular, I don't see a finish happening. I know they both got KOs in their last fight. I think this one's going the distance. So I think that Rodriguez will be able to just out-volume her and just land more shots overall, swaying the judges' scorecards in her favor. So give me Marina Rodriguez to win a decision here in this match. Next fight on the card, the early prelim headliner. This is an excellent stylistic matchup. Jalen Turner versus Renato Money Moicano. In this fight, I think that, it's just the classic striker versus grappler matchup. Renato Moicano coming back after a decently long layoff, getting the dub over Drew Dober. Not looking the best, but he got the job done. And of course, Jalen Turner coming off of that insanely brutal KO over Bobby Green. And in this matchup, I'm going to be picking Jalen Turner to get it done by a second round KO. I love Money Moicano. He's a G. I love his YouTube channel, makes great content. But this is just not a great stylistic matchup for him. I think that we saw kind of the blueprint to how Jalen Turner can win this fight in the Mateusz Gamrot fight. Of course, Gamrot did get the win in that one, but I feel like his control and his chain wrestling is a little bit better than Moicano's. Moicano has good jiu-jitsu, good submissions, but I just don't feel like he's going to be able to hold Jalen down as much as Mateusz Gamrot could. And without having the opportunity to have a long amount of ground control time, I don't think he's going to be able to threaten the submissions as much. And when it's on the feet, we know the deal with Jalen Turner on the feet. Super fast twitch, excellent kicks, really, really fast, snappy punches, and a lot of power on the end of those long, rangy shots as well. Definitely dangerous on the feet. And I think that he's just going to inflict a lot of damage on Moicano before he gets taken to the ground, where I think he'll be able to survive the submission attempts from Moicano. And I think that the damage will be, just really the deciding factor. I think that he'll win round one on damage. And if this fight does go to a decision, which I don't expect it to, I think that Turner is just going to have landed a lot of clean shots. He has really good knees and elbows as well, which he can use in the clinch against Moicano, who doesn't always shoot traditional, double single leg takedowns. He will try to find the sweeps and the trips from the clinch position after getting his hands locked against the cage as well. But I think that it's going to be too little too late. I think Turner is just going to be piecing him up with kicks to the body. I think he's going to be landing that piston-like left hand on the chin of Moicano. And I just don't think Moicano is going to be able to close the distance on the incredibly lanky frame of Jalen Turner, 6'3" in the lightweight division. Absolute cheat code. I think he's going to be landing those straight shots all day on Moicano. And in the second round, I think that it's just going to build up to be too much against money moicano. I think moicano will eventually try and shoot a single leg after getting rocked or something along those lines. Jalen Turner will shruff him off, land a few knees to the body, and I think that moicano will start to feel the impact of those knees to the body, where Jalen Turner will probably be able to just end the fight with a big left hand or a big left kick to the body or head, getting himself a TKO victory here at UFC 300. So for our early prelim headliner, give me Jalen Turner by second round KO. Moicano is a dog, so if he can take Jalen Turner's best shots and get to the scorecards, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think, like I said, the damage is just going to be too much. I think the judges will still give it to Jalen Turner, even if Renato Moicano is able to get control time, take the back, threaten submissions. I think that it's going to be the damage that trumps all here in this matchup if it goes to a decision. But like I said, I do see Jalen Turner finding the finish here in round 2. So for Jalen Turner versus Renato Moicano, official prediction, Jalen Turner, round 2 KO. Our next fight on the card, Diego Lopes versus Sodiq Yusuff. This is a really exciting matchup in the featherweight division. Sodiq Yusuff, becoming a household name in the featherweight division at this point, has been fighting in the UFC for a good amount of time now, fought a lot of notable names like Edson Barboza in his last fight. Diego Lopes, on the other hand, made his debut against Evloev, looked incredible, and has been on a tear ever since, getting 2 stoppages in both of his fights since his debut. He had that beautiful triangle armbar type of submission against Tucker, and then of course he KO'd Pat Sabatini at UFC 295. So in this matchup, I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I know a lot of people think Lopes is going to go out there and sub him in the first round. I think Sodiq Yusuff is going to show some good takedown defense early, maybe even land some really good shots on the feet, because he does have good kickboxing. He's explosive, fast twitch for the most part, a good athlete, and his stand-up is pretty good. Diego Lopes' stand-up is good as well, really quick, has some decent kicks, and has some snappy shots. Of course, we saw him KO Pat Sabatini, who isn't the highest echelon of competition, but it did go to display the finishing instincts on the feet of Diego Lopes. But in this fight, I just do think that eventually Lopes will be able to get the fight to the ground. We saw Edson Barboza shooting crafty takedowns against Yusuff in their fight and was able to have success with that. And Barboza is a Muay Thai guy. He's not a jiu-jitsu or a grappler guy. And I think that Lopes will be able to have more success than Barboza did. I think he'll be able to advance position once he gets the takedowns and be able to threaten submissions, be able to land good ground and pound shots as well. We'll have to see if Sodiq Yusuff can get up, because I feel like if Lopes uses a lot of energy, shooting a lot of takedowns, and being really dangerous on the ground, he could risk gassing out, where Yusuff, who's gone 5 rounds before, has the good cardio. He could start to, get his momentum going in the later rounds. But I think that Lopes is just looking like the featherweight Charles Oliveira at this point. I think that he will be able to clutch it up, probably using the back triangle position to hold down Yusuff, preventing him from using his explosive ability to get back up, just maintaining that position, threatening the rear naked choke. And I think that he can get to the judges' scorecards that way. But I feel like if he's able to, catch Yusuff in the first round while they're both dry, he could definitely lock up a submission. So this is a really hard fight to call. Yusuff as a plus 115 underdog isn't bad either if you don't believe in Lopes' ability to keep it on the mat. Of course, like I said, he does have decent stand-up, so you can never count him out there. But for my official prediction on this fight, give me Diego Lopes by second round submission. It's just hard to pick against this guy. He's surging at this point, and if Barboza the Muay Thai guy is able to shoot takedowns on you. Even though Yusuff was tired, I think that Lopez will be able to do a lot worse. So give me Lopez by round 2 submission, rear naked choke in this fight. Our next fight on the card, we got Holm versus Kayla Harrison. You know, these are two women that are going to be fighting. They are going to be in the cage at UFC 300, and they're going to punch and kick each other. They might even grapple. Holm is the preacher's daughter, though. But Kayla Harrison, you know, she's got that judo. You got to be careful about that judo, man. I mean, I could make a 2.5 hour long breakdown about the X's and O's of this fight if we really wanted to get into the deep, murky waters. But in this fight, I'm going to be picking Kayla Harrison to get it done dominantly. We saw Bruno Silva look like fucking dog shit in the fight against Raquel Pennington, and Silva finished Holm. So you got to pick Harrison, who's also fucking... She's got to be on some fucking roids because that bitch does not look natural. She's also got to cut a ton of weight, so I would be a little bit concerned about that. Hopefully the weight cut isn't too bad. You know what? Prediction on the spot. I predict that Harrison misses weight. I think this is going to be a catch weight bout, and Holm, being the preacher's daughter, is going to take it anyway because, you know, she is a tough cookie. But, you know, Kayla Harrison, I think she will weigh in overweight. She'll have a size advantage against Holm, who is 42 years of fucking age at this point, really fucking old. And like I said, she got beat by finish, got subbed by Bueno Silva, who, you know, I feel like I could literally go in there and starch that bitch in round 1 with how she fought at 297. So, you know, just extrapolating all those matchups and comparing and contrasting that. I don't really give a fuck about the PFL or what Kayla Harrison did there. You know, I think she'll be able to just use the size and be able to just control Holm. Maybe Holm's able to piece her up, keep it on the feet, and, you know, impose her will that way. But I think that Kayla Harrison is the pick in this fight. I don't think we see a finish. Probably bet the house on the over here. But for my official call on this fight, give me Kayla Harrison to win by decision. Our next fight on the card, we got Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling making his debut at featherweight. This is an intriguing matchup. Of course, Aljamain Sterling, former bantamweight champ, very good grappler, back-taking expert. And Calvin Kattar, really good boxing, really good stand-up. Had like a career resurgence moment against Giga Chikadze, but unfortunately did get injured pretty badly in his last fight. If Kattar didn't get injured in his last fight, if he was coming off of the Giga win, for example, I would probably pick him in this fight just because, you know, he does have some grappling, he does have some takedown defense, and I believe if he's able to keep it on the feet, he would easily be able to outbox Aljamain Sterling, who doesn't have great hands, has some good kicks, has some good volume, but, you know, he isn't really going in there and putting the paws on anybody to the extent that they really have to be worried about it. He's much better at, you know, using the threat of the takedown to implement his volume striking on the feet. But, you know, with all that being said, I think the way this fight is going to go, I think Calvin Kattar is going to have success early. I think he'll be boxing up Sterling a little bit, but I think it'll be a matter of time before Sterling is able to use that bantamweight skill, that bantamweight speed to be able to close the distance and snatch up a single leg, getting Calvin Kattar to the ground, and you already know what happens then. Sterling's going to take the back, and he's going to ride out the round, or he's going to find a rear naked choke. And I think that, you know, Calvin Kattar will probably be able to defend the submissions. I think that Sterling gets a decision here, just riding, you know, pause, just being able to ride it out, taking the back of Calvin Kattar, getting a decision that way. You know, I wouldn't be surprised at all by a Calvin Kattar KO, but Aljamain Sterling, he's been able to take down everybody and get their back, except for Sean O'Malley, who is just on a completely different level of movement, footwork, speed than a guy like Calvin Kattar. It's almost impossible to be able to corner O'Malley and be able to lock him down in a singular spot to be able to shoot with any type of confidence. That's why Sterling just simply wasn't able to get his hands on him. He wasn't able to push Sean against the cage and keep him stationary. Sean was always moving, throwing kicks, giving him different looks, changing stances so that Sterling would not be able to snatch up that single leg nearly as easy. I don't think that Kattar is going to be as dynamic as a guy like Sean O'Malley. I think Sterling's going to be able to get his hands on him, be able to snatch the single legs, trip, be able to get it to the ground, find the back, push him up against the cage. Once he gets his hands locked, he'll be able to find those trips, take the back. Like I said, Aljamain Sterling is just one of the best of all times in MMA at taking the back. He's an incredibly good grappler, and I think that just the bantamweight speed and skill will be able to get him the decision in this matchup over Calvin Kattar. I'd like to see Kattar maybe take a small step down in competition if he loses this fight. He is an entertaining fighter, but I think in this matchup here at UFC 300, it is not going to go his way. So for my official prediction, give me Aljamain Sterling to win a decision here at UFC 300 in his featherweight debut. And, we got to see Volk versus Sterling next. That's the fight to make. Volk doesn't need to get KO'd again bad. Let him fight Aljamain Sterling and then retire after beating another former champ. That'd be an excellent way for his career to end. That was just a side note, but Sterling by decision is the call. Our next fight on the card, we got the prelim headliner Jiri Prochazka versus Alexander Rakic. And I'm standing on business on this pick. I see people picking Rakic, saying that he's just the cleaner kickboxer, man. He's going to be able to outpoint Prochazka. He's going to be able to take him down, hold him there. Prochazka's too sloppy. Just because Rakic is doing the long guard and he's in here and he's doing this, people are acting like this dude is super leg. People are acting like Rakic is going in there putting on Jonathan Haggerty-esque Muay Thai performances and is just going to be able to completely outstrike Prochazka like he's Alex Pereira. I do not see that happening. I think that Jiri Prochazka is going to come in there like a thunderstorm and absolutely lightning strike Rakic out cold. Yeah, I think he's going to highlight Alexander Rakic here in this fight. Rakic is coming off of a bad injury he suffered against Jan Blachowicz, and you got to think that that is going to affect his performance. Recovering from the injury, having the surgery, long time off. Of course, that was Jiri in his last outing after his shoulder surgery, but he's had time to recover fully. He's got a matchup under his belt already, fighting the champion in Alex Pereira, making a quick turnaround for the first time in his UFC career. I think the momentum is in Jiri's favor here. And like I said, Rakic, he's on the back foot, throwing a couple jabs here and there, throwing some kicks. He does have crispy kicks, don't get me wrong. But Rakic is just not throwing a ton of volume to be able to keep a guy like Prochazka off of him. And rewatch the Volkan Oezdemir fight with Alexander Rakic. Volkan Oezdemir literally impregnated Rakic's leg. Dude's leg looked like it got hit by a sledgehammer. He was getting outstruck in that fight. And he was looking basic on the feet. He was starting his combinations with uppercuts like double digits amount of times. That's not a super clean striker. Like, nobody learns that in day one at Muay Thai or boxing or kickboxing training. And people are talking about this guy like he's some technical maestro who's going to be able to just toy with Jiri on the feet. He's not going to be able to have nearly as much success constantly backing up, constantly getting pressed against the cage. And Jiri does have decent takedown defense. We saw this in the Glover fight. I think if he's able to survive the grappling with Glover, he's much better on the ground than Rakic. He will do just fine in this matchup. And I think he's going to be able to manage the distance to the point where the long, tall Rakic, even though Prochazka is only an inch shorter, I don't think he's going to be shooting single legs super easy against Prochazka, who is changing stances constantly, moving forward constantly, putting you on the back foot, throwing the kitchen sink at you, and just overwhelming you. Rakic's defense isn't that great either, especially, in the pocket with the hands. He's just doing the long guard, man. And the long guard is great, don't get me wrong, but this isn't Muay Thai. This is MMA. And Prochazka's throwing crazy shots at weird angles. He has great uppercuts where he will be easily able to find that gap in Rakic's guard. And I think he'll be able to land overhands as well. I think he'll be able to tag Rakic with the straight left from southpaw too. And also overhand rights. Rakic's hand, if he's not, here trying to eye poke his opponent like he was with Volkan Oezdemir, I think his hand's like down here. And I think that Prochazka will be able to feint, slip off the jab and just land a nasty overhand. We saw him do that exact sequence against Alex Pereira. Of course, he didn't knock him down or do a ton of damage, but he landed it clean. And Volkan Oezdemir was doing the same thing that Jiri likes to do against Alexander Rakic. I know that that wasn't his most recent fight, but Volkan, who is not nearly the offensive danger that Jiri is, he was slipping and tagging him with clean left hooks. He was slipping and tagging him with straight rights down the pipe. And I think that if you're struggling to tag Volkan Oezdemir using head movement, Jiri Prochazka is going to confuse the fuck out of you. And Rakic is going to swing, hit air, and Jiri Prochazka is going to fucking nail him with a nasty counter shot. After slipping using his weird, awkward head movement, Jiri is also much better in the clinch as well. Whenever Rakic is in the clinch, he's trying to do some dirty boxing. He will change levels, but Prochazka throws excellent knees, excellent elbows from the clinch, and I think he will be doing a lot more damage as well in the clinch when Rakic tries to engage in the grappling or the fence game. I think Jiri gets this done, man. I think Jiri has the downhill style to just blow through him, man. I think he's just going to cut through Rakic like a knife through butter. I think he'll get tagged, but Jiri does have an amazing chin. He's got insane recovery, and it's just hard to pick against this guy when he's, walking into the cage with the fucking red lights going on, and he has that fucking movie music intro, and he's fucking got the damn samurai get up going. He is kind of a weeaboo, but I like his mentality. I mean, fighting for Jiri in the UFC is just a small part of his martial arts journey. This dude is like on a whole nother level. This dude is tapped into, the ancient martial arts gods that, us normal MMA fans just simply aren't in tune with. He's got the whole fucking universe of mixed martial arts protecting him, I feel like, when he's fighting. Except for when he's against Alex Pereira and Mark Goddard can fluke it because, real MMA fans know Jiri, he had Alex right where he wanted him. He was about to reverse position, be in mount, and finish him with elbows. No, I'm just kidding. It was an early stoppage though. But Jiri, if you can't tell, he's one of my favorite fighters. He's probably like my second favorite fighter after Shavkat Rakhmonov. Maybe I'm being a little bit biased in this matchup, but Rakic is just not impressing me that much. People are acting like this dude is Pereira. People are acting like this dude is, super like out here putting on kickboxing clinics every single time he steps into the octagon. It's just not the case. I think that Jiri has the style to just absolutely pierce the armor of Alexander Rakic. Give me Jiri by round 1 KO at UFC 300. Our next fight on the card, this should not be on the main card, but it is our main card opener. We got Cody Brundage versus Bo Nickal. This is a fucking mismatch. Unless Cody Brundage can just pull off a fluke from heaven, the MMA gods will have to be very generous here for our main card opener if they want to gift Cody Brundage a nice fluke. But I think unless the MMA gods, just pull a prank on us, Bo Nickal shoots his D1 takedown, gets Cody Brundage to the ground, passes the guard, and finishes him with ground and pound. I think that is how this fight's going to go. That's how the UFC wants it to go. And Bo Nickal, even though he's not proven in MMA, these kids that are coming out of, Penn State at the D1 level are just nasty, nasty wrestlers. I know it doesn't always translate to MMA, but they have a great program at that school. And Bo Nickal is just a prodigy when it comes to the grappling. He's been doing it all his life. And he's a disgusting favorite in this fight. I think he's like -2,000, -3,000. It's just crazy. But, you know, I think he's obviously going to get this matchup done unless there's a crazy fluke. I don't think we have to look into this all that much. I am excited for Bo Nickal's future. I like a good old American getting it done, even though Cody Brundage is American as well. We don't have a ton of, you know, American champs in the UFC, especially not representing wrestling, you know, like a guy like DC was, for example. I wouldn't mind good old Bo Nickal rising the ranks of middleweight. I think he could have some fun matchups in the future. I know that him versus Chimaev is a talked about fight. The grappling exchanges would be really fun to watch in that bout. But he's got to get past, you know, the good old journeyman Brundage here. And if he gets fluked here in the main event of UFC 300, that would be a bad look because the UFC is obviously setting him up. Hopefully he's not feeling crazy pressure, but I mean, Bo Nickal, he's been competing at a high level of combat sports for so long. I think that it won't really affect him too much here in this matchup. So, you know, Cody Brundage, you know, he's a tough out, but I think that Bo Nickal shoots the double leg, gets him down, passes the guard, ground and pound TKO. I don't think there's really that much else to say about this matchup starting out the main card. Excited for Bo Nickal's future, but not excited for this fight. Bo Nickal, round 1 KO, ground and pound. Yep, it's time. It's time for the people's main event of the evening. Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. And my mental health for the next month relies on the outcome of this matchup. I am a huge Charles Oliveira fan. And I think he's gonna fucking kill this motherfucker! I'm literally having to calm myself down for this prediction because I'm so excited for this fight. Arman Tsarukyan, he is an excellent wrestler. I think he can definitely pose a threat to Charles. I think he's instantly going to come out of the gates in round 1 trying to land, you know, powerful shots on Charles Oliveira. I think he's going to be trying to throw head kicks. I think that eventually he is going to change levels very quickly. I think he's going to shoot. And I do believe that he is going to get Charles to the ground. I do worry about Charles getting followed to the ground. But I'm hearing this narrative, and people are saying, all you got to do is follow Charles to the ground, man. He's done. He's done if you follow him to the ground. Was he done the first time that Islam Makhachev followed him to the ground? Islam Makhachev, pound for pound, best fighter in the world and future GOAT of the sport, wasn't able to do anything to Charles on the ground. He landed maybe 2 or 3 shots, medium shots on the Weasel's power counter. It really wasn't a ton of damage. Charles Oliveira basically nullified Islam's offense, except for when he was rocked. In the first round, he was throwing up submissions. He was trapping Islam's arms. He was not allowing Islam to advance position. And he was just constantly throwing up arm bars, throwing up triangles, threatening different submissions to be able to get out of the bad positions that Islam was trying to put him in. And then he got back up to the feet. The only issue is that Islam is just simply unhittable on the feet. Charles loves to use teeps to the body. Islam was parrying every single one of those that Charles threw. Charles wasn't able to land any punches either. He was hitting air in that matchup. But Islam Makhachev is one of the most defensively sound fighters in UFC history. It took like the best striker in the sport, Alexander Volkanovski, to be able to pierce the armor of Islam Makhachev. And you're telling me that Charles isn't going to be able to tag Arman on the feet. Charles Oliveira, let me pull it up on Tapology real quick. Let's see this little height differential and reach differential that people aren't taking into consideration here in this match. Arman's about to get mogged. Wait till the weigh-ins. Wait till the weigh-ins. Oliveira is going to be there and he is going to mog little man Arman Tsarukyan. 5'10 to 5'7", 74-inch reach to 72.5-inch reach. On the feet, Charles is going to be lighting him up like a goddamn Christmas tree or the sky on the 4th of July. That ain't a lie. I didn't even mean to rhyme that. But Charles Oliveira is going to be tagging him on the feet. Arman Tsarukyan, he's clean, but he's not ever fought a guy as dangerous and that marches forward and throws heat at you, trying to kill you with every shot like Charles Oliveira. Charles is going to be stabbing him to the body with the teep. He has very underrated low kicks, which I think he will be able to use against Arman Tsarukyan. I don't think Arman is going to be able to reach down and catch the kicks of Oliveira to be able to get him to the mat. And with that being said, I think that Charles Oliveira can set up his high kick by threatening the low kicks early as well. I think he can chop at the leg of Arman Tsarukyan and then also sneak the head kick in there as well. And I just don't see Arman Tsarukyan being able to hurt Charles badly on the feet. It could happen. It could happen. But unless he's fighting old man Dariush, who Charles Oliveira already KO'd before him, he's not really laying guys out. And also, if you're going 5 rounds with Mateusz Gamrot competitively, you're not touching Charles Oliveira. Bronx is going to smoke this cat. Charles Oliveira can easily find a submission on the ground. Arman will follow him to the ground, but if Islam is not able to submit Charles, except for once he was rocked, you cannot convince me that Arman is just going to be able to wrap up Charles with a submission. No. And Charles, we saw it in the Beneil Dariush fight as well. Dariush was hitting the canvas. Charles is literally slipping the shots on the ground, controlling his wrist, making him miss everything. He has very, very good defensive skills on the ground. He's able to completely nullify their ground and pound. And I don't think Arman Tsarukyan is going to be able to get in half guard and elbow the fuck out of Charles Oliveira without getting swept. Oliveira is like a fucking broom on the ground. He's going to sweep you. And I could see Charles literally sweeping Arman Tsarukyan, getting top position and landing some nasty elbows like he did against DP. And in the clinch, don't even get me started about the clinch. I know that Charles Oliveira does have his zesty ass clinch maneuver that he likes to do, but let's not act like he doesn't land just spear-like knees to the midsection when he's in the clinch. He landed some good knees against Islam, who's very, very strong in the clinch. Absolute monster when it comes to the grappling. We all know this and how strong Islam is. Oliveira was doing good in the clinch, landed a nice elbow off the break as well in their fight. And you got to look back at the DP fight. He really was able to turn the tide in that fight, getting the tie clinch on DP, kneeing him to the body, kneeing him to the body. That's going to be there on a shorter opponent like Arman Tsarukyan. Charles is going to be able to just grab this motherfucker, knee. I see it happening, and I feel like he's going to hurt Arman to the midsection as well with the knees in the clinch. I think the leg kicks are going to be open for him, and I think when it comes to the punching and the boxing, Arman Tsarukyan, he's able to land a sneaky right hand after faking the knee on Beneil Dariush, but Charles just has so much more pop. We've seen him fucking flatline Justin Gaethje and then choke him the fuck out. We saw him just left hook the absolute fuck out of Michael Chandler, who is chinny, but that was a perfectly placed left hook, right where Michael Chandler was unable to see it. And I could see him catching Arman with a quick shot like that. He has a nice reach advantage in this fight. He has the height advantage. I don't think that Arman Tsarukyan is going to have a lot of success on the feet. And I feel like once he starts getting pieced up, he's going to start shooting panic takedowns. And Charles Oliveira will darce the fuck out of you or guillotine the fuck out of you real quick if you start shooting panic takedowns. We know this. He has the most submissions in UFC history. This dude's a finisher, man. He has only lost to Islam Makhachev recently. Arman literally lost to Mateusz Gamrot, who went to hell and back to get a win over RDA. And you think Arman Tsarukyan is going to walk in there and stop Charles Oliveira? You're tripping. I could possibly, I was talking to my friend about this. I could see a robbery for Sarukian. I could see Charles Oliveira doing way more damage, but Sarukian just lays on him at the end of the round and the judges give it to Sarukian. I'll fly to Las Vegas myself and commit a fucking crime if that happens. No robberies on UFC 300. Damage trumps all, and Charles is going to do more damage in this fight. He has the submission threats on the ground. He's going to tie him up like a shoestring on the ground. He's going to tie him in a knot, man. Arman Sarukian's not getting this done. I picked him to beat Beneil Dariush. Placed a decent-sized bet on Arman Sarukian to beat Beneil Dariush. I rate him as a prospect. I think he's good. But we have seen the level of the prime three at lightweight right now. Dustin, Justin, and Charles. You know, we had the fucking Khabib, Conor, and Tony era. And now we got the fucking Charles, Justin, and Dustin era. I will be so fucking pissed if Charles is the one OG lightweight that has to lose to the up-and-coming contender. It couldn't be fucking sore winner prick DP. It couldn't be fucking Homer Simpson, Justin Gaethje. I love Justin Gaethje, one of my favorite fighters. We'll get on to that prediction. But it couldn't be one of those guys losing to Fiziev or, Benoit. It would have to be Charles losing to Arman Sarukian. That's just how the MMA gods seem to work sometimes. But I'm holding down the fort on this one. I'm standing on business. I'm picking Charles Oliveira. And the way I think he gets it done is, I think, first round, they're feeling each other out. Oliveira landing good low kicks. I think that Arman Sarukian will eventually time one of Oliveira's kicks, get him to the ground, where Charles Oliveira is just going to be like one of the motherfuckers at the circus tying up balloon animals. He's going to be manipulating Arman Sarukian, just rolling him up like a fucking joint on the ground. And I think he'll be able to reverse the position, land elbows, threaten submissions. And I think that he'll be able to get it back up to the feet, where I see Arman starting to panic. He's unable to get the takedowns. He shoots another one. Charles stuffs it, gets both double underhooks, transitions to the tie clinch. Big knees, big elbows. They break. Charles lands a big fucking stiff right down the pipe. Arman goes out fucking cold in round 2. Our next fight on the card, we got Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway, making his lightweight debut for the BMF belt at UFC 300. This is an excellent matchup, and I'm more excited about it now than I was at the beginning when it was first announced. I already made an early prediction video for this on my channel when this fight first got announced, and the overall narrative from the MMA community that I've been seeing is, originally when the fight was announced, everybody was on Gaethje. And slowly the tide has been turning to where people are like, Max has a chance. And now it's like a 50-50 in most people's eyes. Or a lot of people are really leaning towards Holloway. I'm the opposite, man. I've been getting more confident about Justin Gaethje. I think Justin Gaethje is going to maul Max Holloway, and I think he's going to KO him for the first time in his career. Yep, you heard me. I think Justin Gaethje is going to KO Max Holloway. Max Holloway, he's a super likable fighter. I love him. He's one of my favorite featherweights. I wish he never came up to 155, but Justin Gaethje is like my third or fourth favorite fighter. I'm not picking against him here, and I think stylistically this is a good matchup for him as well. Max Holloway, he used to be famous for, like McDonald's, he was serving out the 20 count combos, he was throwing a lot of volume, and he just really hasn't been doing that a lot in his most recent fights, especially after the Volkanovski losses. Of course, we all know the masterclass he put on over Calvin Kattar. I don't think he's going to be able to do that to Justin Gaethje, because I think he's going to be walking into nasty, nasty counter shots. And without that type of volume and slow snowball effect, I don't think Max's game is going to be able to be nearly as effective, because let's be honest, Max doesn't have a ton of pop. It's going to take a TKZ running at him with zero regard for defense, with his chin right on the center line, right on a silver platter for Max to be able to get that KO. Justin Gaethje, he has taken a lot of damage, but I feel like his chin has recovered. He took a big left from Dustin Poirier in their rematch, and he also took a lot of nasty shots from Fiziev, and he was able to eat them. If he's able to eat those, I think he can eat Holloway's little pillow punches. And Max, he's been a lot more reserved recently. I know he's sparring for this fight, so I think we could see a more aggressive approach. I think he's approaching this one a little bit differently than his most recent fights, but even in the TKZ fight, man, he was kind of going tit for tat. Rewatch that first round. TKZ, even though he got clipped a couple of times, he was having some success. And one thing that I was noticing was he would step in with hook combinations where he would be switching stances and catch Holloway circling out with a big hook. And I was just like thinking about that in the build up to this matchup. If Justin Gaethje lands that type of shot, which he's really good at those step through hooks, he will be able to severely hurt Max Holloway, because TKZ landed flush on him, but TKZ does not have anywhere near the same type of power that Justin Gaethje has. And I know Max has changed up his stance a little bit to not be as open to the leg kicks. I think Justin Gaethje is going to throw more of them in this fight against Max, because we saw Volkanovski's success against Max with the leg kicks. I know he changed it up in the second and third fight, but it's still there. And I think Trevor Whitman, great coach, he will be able to get Justin more active with the leg kicks, because Justin hasn't been as active with them in his last few fights. He's predominantly stuck to the boxing. But Justin Gaethje's striking, man, ever since the Tony Ferguson fight, I've been telling people, they've kept picking against him, but I'm like, this dude's on another level now. And when it's not against a guy like Charles or Khabib, who's just an impossible matchup for the no jiu-jitsu Justin Gaethje, he's going to be able to outstrike these guys. I don't think Max Holloway is going to be shooting for the legs in the BMF fight. I feel like he's just going to have that, gentleman's agreement, unwritten rule type of vibe where he's just not going to take it to the fight, take the fight to the ground, kind of like how Kevin Holland just refused to take down Wonderboy. If Max wanted to really play it smart, he would shoot a takedown and try to get Justin Gaethje to the ground. But like I said, I just don't think he will here in the BMF fight. And I think on the feet, Justin is just going to land nasty counters. I think the fight will slowly be getting away from Max with the leg kicks, with the big hooks that Justin lands. And I just feel like Max Holloway is going to have to enter that dead space that is just so dangerous against Justin Gaethje. He has such good instincts in the pocket with his boxing counters. And I feel like even though he is open on the feet, Max Holloway does get hit as well. There's a reason his chin is so well renowned. It's because it gets tested. And the only thing that really makes me worry for Gaethje here is Max has fought Volk 3 times. And even though he came out on the losing side all 3 times, that type of experience is invaluable. And fighting the GOAT of featherweight with a speed and skill advantage over basically everybody in the lightweight division, that's really, really good experience for Max Holloway to have in any type of striking battle. But I think Justin Gaethje is just the antidote here in this fight. I feel like his head movement's gotten a lot better, his defense gotten a lot better, and even when he does get rocked, he's staying a lot more composed than he used to. He's able to, regain his composure like he did against Chandler and get back into the fight. I don't think his signature uppercut is going to be there nearly as much. Max Holloway is the same height as Justin Gaethje, and he doesn't dip his head down nearly as much as, Oliveira did, for example, Michael Chandler did, for example. I think Justin Gaethje is predominantly going to stick with, his straight right hand, his left hook. Really good shots for him there. Like I said, I think he's going to work the leg kick a lot more. Justin Gaethje never goes to the body. Holloway does some, which I feel like Justin Gaethje, will be able to counter those body shots that Holloway tries to land. He likes to stick that right to the body, and I could see Justin Gaethje hitting him with a nice check left hook when Holloway does extend and go for that shot to the body. This is going to be, just a really good striking battle. The striking exchanges are going to be incredible. 2 really talented guys on the feet here, but I feel like Justin Gaethje is just on a different level now on the feet. Max Holloway is no fucking joke. I could see him clipping Justin Gaethje with that beautiful left hook he has been using. We saw it against Arnold Allen and TKZ. He's been snapping people's fucking head back with that shit really well. And I could see Justin throwing a sloppy right hand, Max getting out of the way of it and snapping that beautiful left hook and dropping Gaethje. I think he will drop Gaethje with that shot, actually, but I think Gaethje will be able to stay composed, stay in the fight, and I think that in rounds 2 or 3, the leg kicks will start adding up. The nasty, nasty boxing combinations of Justin Gaethje will start adding up, and I just don't know if Max is going to be able to take it. He's taken a lot of damage in his career, so is Justin, but Justin Gaethje, Khabib said it himself, this guy is like truck, brother. And, you know, I think that this could be Max Holloway's time to get his chin cracked. We saw Francis Ngannou get his chin cracked. Chito Vera didn't get knocked out, but he wore damage for the first time in his career. 2024 might be the year of the unbreakable chins getting cracked. And I think we're in for a war here, but I think Justin Gaethje is going to do way more damage. I think he's going to be landing beautiful counters, and I don't think Max is going to be using enough volume to just be able to overwhelm Gaethje beyond the point of no return to where he won't be able to be technical anymore and he resorts back to his old ways of just swinging for the fences. I don't think Max Holloway will be able to put on enough pressure to be able to get that outcome from Justin Gaethje without just taking way too many counters, too many big overhand rights on the way in. And Max, I mean, I just don't like this matchup for him whatsoever. And another side note, people have been, you know, raving about, oh, Max is putting on that muscle, man. We've been seeing these pictures of him with downlighting on Instagram. Looking bigger for sure, but in this matchup, I don't think that's going to help him at all. I think it's going to make him slower on the feet. I don't think he'll be as snappy as he was at featherweight. And since this is a title fight, it will be 5 rounds. And I don't think that not having to cut that weight and do that extra cardio, that extra work in the gym and putting that effort into putting on mass is going to help his cardio. I think it's going to severely hinder his cardio. And I think that if anybody's going to be getting tired in this matchup, it's going to be Max Holloway with the extra muscle and not Justin Gaethje, who trains at altitude, has great cardio, and has gone, you know, the full length of the fight many times. At lightweight, of course, Max has done that at featherweight plenty of times. But at lightweight, Justin is more used to his frame and it's his natural weight class. I don't think moving up to lightweight is helping Holloway at all here. I think he gets more tired. I think he's a little bit slower. And I think that Justin Gaethje is going to beat him to the punch with the counters. I think he's going to tear up the leg more than he has in his last few fights. And I think Justin Gaethje is going to get a round 3 KO. It might be a doctor stoppage, to be honest. I could see a doctor stoppage. Max just wearing too much damage, but I could see a TKO here for Justin Gaethje. That's going to be my official call in round 3. Doctor stoppage or early stoppage. Maybe Mark Goddard is reffing this fight. Max Holloway gets dropped once. Maybe Gaethje lands a nasty left hook against the cage. Max is kind of like posting against the cage to try and get back up, and then Mark Goddard waves it off. Over! And that's all it is to it. But, you know, I'm kind of all over the place on this prediction, but those are just some of the things that I noticed that I could not get out of my head. I considered Max as an underdog here, but I just cannot see Justin Gaethje not getting the BMF belt wrapped around his waist at the end of their fight. So give me Justin Gaethje, round 3 KO, first KO loss for Max Holloway in his career, and a career-defining win for Justin Gaethje here in this fight for the BMF belt. Justin Gaethje, round 3 KO. That's my call. Our next fight on the card, we have a disappointing co-main event of the evening. Yan Xiaonan versus Zhang Weili. Look, this is probably going to be a half-decent fight, to be honest, but for the co-main of UFC 300, you know, I think we could ask for a little bit better of a fight because the way I see this fight going is I think that Yan, you know, she's going to be threatening some striking on the feet, but I think that Zhang's wrestling is just too good for a lot of these girls to get past. I mean, she's just been controlling fools on the ground pretty easily in her last few fights. I think she does the same here. You know, she did get tagged up a little bit in her last fight, but you can't count on a finish in a WMMA fight, and I just can't see her getting KO'd other than, like, you know, a perfectly placed head kick from Rose Namajunas. But you know, in this fight for the co-main, I think that Weili will be able to just out wrestle Yan for all 5 rounds. She has great cardio. She has good striking on the feet. And, I don't think she's just going to get outclassed on the feet. I think that Yan, she poses some danger. She's had some good performances, but, give me the long reigning champ here in the co-main event. I think she gets it done by decision, just being able to wrestle Yan the entire time, landing ground and pound, threatening submissions. And I think she gets a pretty easy decision here in the co-main event. That's my call. Give me Zhang Weili by decision here. Our main event of the evening, UFC 300 main event, Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. This is going to be an exciting fight. I know that, the overall MMA community consensus was that we were a little bit disappointed with this being booked as the headliner for 300. I know a lot of people wanted McGregor Chandler. I know people wanted Edwards Makhachev. But, on paper, this is going to be an excellent fucking fight. And I think it's going to be exciting regardless, no matter the outcome. But for my official prediction for the UFC 300 main event, Sham, I am going to be taking Alex Pereira here to get it done. Let me make something clear. If Hill was fresh off of the Glover performance, I would pick Jamal Hill. In a hypothetical world, of course, I know the matchups that happened couldn't have happened if this matchup was taking place right after Hill fought Glover, but just for the sake of the prediction, I would have picked Hill then. But with the Achilles injury, with the time off, with him getting out of shape and Poatan being active, getting the belt, staying in training camps, I think he's going to be a lot sharper than Jamal Hill in this fight. And even though Hill does have the style to be able to go in there and KO Alex Pereira, I don't think he's going to be the best version of himself. We have to take the injury into consideration. I think it was supposed to be like a year until he was even, jogging and training. It's been like 10 months, I believe, and he's in a main event against Alex Pereira. I don't think his body is going to be at 100%. And he could not have been training to the fullest extent in that time period. Alex has been fighting the best people in the world in that time period. The momentum is in Alex's favor. Like I said, stylistically, I don't mind Hill here, but we have to take these X factors into consideration. I know a lot of people don't think the leg kicks are going to be as big of a factor here in this matchup. I think they are. I watched some pad work from Alex Pereira. He is drilling that southpaw leg kick with both legs, the inside and the outside, with his left switch kick. I think he's going to tear up the legs of Jamal Hill. I think Jamal Hill is going to be trying to land counters to the leg kicks, but I think Alex is going to be hip to it. Like I said, he's been active. His reflexes are going to be super sharp and on point. He has good head movement. He's able to slip out of the way of shots and just narrowly have a miss and then come right back with a big counter, a big right left hook. And I feel like he is going to be countering the fuck out of Jamal Hill here in this matchup. Tearing up the leg, jabs to the body. One strike that I do really fear for Alex Pereira is when he goes for that jab to the body, he always puts his head so far off the center line, which is good, so he's not getting tagged by counters with the hands. But Jamal Hill has an excellent left high kick. And if he times a left high kick when Poatan's going for that jab to the body with his head off the center line like that, he could lean right into a perfectly placed left high kick and just get slumped the fuck out. Also, Poatan, he just really over-exaggerates his slips sometimes. He's good with rolling with punches, but sometimes he over-exaggerates him slipping. And I could see Jamal Hill with his good right hook just snapping Alex's head back with a good counter when Alex goes for a jab or a 1-2, just leaning back out of the way, snapping Hill's really good right hook to the chin of Alex Pereira. I could see that happening, but I think that Pereira is just too high level on the feet. I picked Jiri against Poatan because, sometimes I just felt like Pereira was a little bit slower at light heavyweight than he was at middleweight, but I feel like he's gaining confidence in his newfound light heavyweight frame. Of course, in Glory Kickboxing, he was light heavyweight predominantly as well. And are we going to act like the double Glory champion is going to get outstruck? We keep saying this, but he just keeps proving people wrong. And I mean, I think at some point it sounds casual, but we just have to start picking the 2-time Glory Kickboxing world champion to start, easily outstriking these guys. Hill's good, he's dangerous, but I think that Pereira is just going to be able to outstrike him. He has faced every type of striker under the sun. Jamal Hill is not some type of crazy X factor that he's never seen in his life. And Pereira is literally built for cutting down these sloppy strikers like Hill. When Hill throws the right straight, it looks like he's swimming out there. I mean, he literally throws it and it goes down all the way to his waist. Alex could just fucking unload a nasty left hook off of that if he times it correctly. That's a huge tell. Basically, everybody is seeing this, but Jamal Hill is not going to be able to unlearn these habits for one fight. It's always going to be there. And, I just think that Pereira is going to be able to land that left hook. I think he's going to be able to land the low kicks. And, I feel like Pereira is just the way more sophisticated striker here. I don't think Hill is going to go for the takedowns. And Pereira has shown that he's just able to nullify a lot of the grappling that comes against him. He always goes for that guillotine with his fucking lanky-ass arms, and he's able to snatch people's necks with that. Not able to finish it, of course, but it's something he's threatened. And when he does get to the ground, he's able to control their wrist really good with his fucking Powhatan hands and just grab their wrist. Jiri landed like one elbow with like 2 minutes of top control time. So Pereira does have really good defense from the bottom. Hill should shoot takedowns and go for the ground and pound if he wants to be successful in this fight. Not try to go tit for tat with Alex on the feet. But I think he will. And I think that he is going to get slept out cold in the 3rd round for doing so. So that's my official prediction here. Give me Alex Pereira by 3rd round KO. I went over the shots I'm scared for him. Left high kick, right hook. But I think that at the end of the day, the double champ Glory Kickboxing is going to outstrike sloppy man Hill. Hill's a great striker, don't get me wrong. I think he's going to have success against a lot of other light heavyweights. But Pereira is just going to be able to outstrike these strikers. And you know how MMA works. He's going to beat Jiri, he's going to beat Hill, and then he's going to lose to fucking Ankalaev. And we're going to have Ankalaev as champ. So, you know how the UFC works. Fucking Ankalaev has to be champ over fucking Hill or Jiri beating Powhatan, and we get fucking Magomed as the champ, saying brother after he wins the fucking belt off of Pereira in his next title defense. So, I feel like, unfortunately, that's how the light heavyweight division is going to go. But give me Powhatan by round 3 KO. I think he's going to get him with a right hand down the pipe, left hook counter after destroying the legs and just overall doing really crispy work on the feet. Not much else to say there about my UFC main event prediction. I think it's going to be a super exciting striking battle for as long as it lasts. Both guys have holes in their defense, but I think at the end of the day, Powhatan is the more sophisticated striker on the feet and will be able to come out on top here in the main event of UFC 300 on this big monumental card. So that's what I think is going to occur here. Super excited for all of these fights on the card, and I am really looking forward to this coming Saturday. With all that being said, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching the video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Enjoy UFC 300, I know I will, and have a wonderful rest of your day.